Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Steel City Knives. Right, I've got another video for you today, and what we're going to be doing, we're going to be looking at a couple of Stephen Cocker custom knives, but also we're going to be talking about the man himself. When he actually sent these out to me, I speak to him now and again, and what I did, I asked if he could send me some pictures of his workshop, because as much as the few times that I do speak to Stephen, it's mainly about the history of cutlery, books that he's got, catalogues, things like that, and some of the tools that he uses. I'm absolutely fascinated, as you know, by that side of it. So we're going to be having a look at the knives themselves. We're going to be talking a bit about Stephen, and we're going to also talk about some of the tools that he owns and that he uses. So let's get on with the video. Now, it's in a pattern that I absolutely love. It's a Wharncliffe Whittler pattern. I actually did a bit of a talked about the origin of it, which comes from Joseph Rogers, is the first company that produced that pattern. I did a video on the Wharncliffe, the Seahorse Whittler by Case, and which delves a bit into the pattern itself. So go check that video out if you're interested in that. So in that, Stephen Cocker sent me this fantastic catalogue from some of the earlier models of the Wharncliffe Whittler, and that is what he's based this knife off here. Now, as you can see, my collection's grown a bit since then. Some of these have come from Drew White, fantastic person in the community. He's another guy I need to get a video out done so I can get a knife out to him. He's been extremely patient, along with Zen, and I do appreciate that. Life has got in the way massively. A lot of things have been chucked in my path recently, but we're smashing through it and cracking on. Hopefully start to produce some more videos. Right, so without further ado, let's get on with the video. Right, so we're going to reference two books during this video, and you're gonna hear two things that you very rarely hear when talking about cutlery books. These are both affordable, and they're still very much available. So not very often you'll hear that when talking about cutlery books. So what we've got, and if you use my hand as a bit of a reference, I've got a medium to large hand. They're quite a small book. They're not too many pages, but the information that's in it is absolutely brilliant. So they're both under £10. I got this from Honey Haynes and this one from Amazon. Now, on the Amazon advert, it does say it's the one left. So don't be fooled by that, because I've had two from them and it always says it's the last one. So I think they just print them out, to be honest. So this is a Sheffield Heritage by C.A. Turner. It's a joint publication with Historical Society. It's a fantastic book. It's not all about pocket knives. So there is a small section about pocket knives. There's stuff about scissors, files, all sorts of crafts within Sheffield, but it also talks about heat treatment and things like that. So it's a brilliant read. It's got some fantastic pictures in it and some annotation of some of the tools and things like that that are still used today, and that's what I'll be showing you in regards to how Stephen puts his knives together. This is another fantastic book. This is a knife repair and restoration by Adrian Harris. So if you like to take your slip joints apart and work on them, I used this when I was taking apart the Rosecraft blades knife, and I've started to build up a lot of knives that are damaged, that I bought for peanuts, that I want to work on later on down the line when I get some free time, probably when I retire now, how busy my life is. But yeah, this is a fantastic book for that. Now, it's done by a brilliant guy called Adrian A. Harris. He was a very respected person within the knife community. He was the only sort of repair person for Schrade after sort of doing training with Schrade. He worked for a lot of Zollingen companies over in America doing the repairs for them. I'm trying to think who the companies were. I think one was, let's have a look. It does tell you in here. I love this. The dream of bringing back the old style of bench-made pocket knives finally came true in September. So that's the chap there. That was the guy. That was his whole thing that he wanted to do. He wanted to bring back bench-style making knives, the old way of making knives, which a lot of the Sheffield companies, well, all of the Sheffield companies still do today. So handmade pocket knives. So this was back in the 70s, he was thinking that. So even back in the 70s, they were becoming more automated in how they were making knives, but this guy wanted to bring it back to how they once were made. He was also the founder of Tennessee Knife Works Incorporated, which did the Colonel Coon knife, which is a fantastic knife. One came up on the second-hand market for a really affordable price, about £30 odd. I missed out on it, unfortunately. But yeah, fantastic guy. I love his mindset and what he wanted to do. Let me see if I can find these companies that he worked for. So yeah, here we go. Kissing Crane and J. Henckels. There you are. So he actually repaired knives for them as well. He was an authorised repairman for them. But yeah, just a fantastic book. If you like tinkering with knives, it's definitely one to get. Talks about all kinds of stuff, and it is. It's both of them are fantastic, and for under £10, you can't beat it. Right, let's go on with the video. Right, so let's have a look around the knives themselves. So let's get the price out of the way. They're £100 each. I think that's really reasonable for a custom-made knife. They are absolutely fitted beautifully, hafted really well. I love the crinking. Look how tightly he's got them into the blade well. Just absolutely beautiful. The buffalo horn. Now, buffalo horn is I'm going to mention this podcast again. So I'll mention this a bit on my channel, but there's a podcast called The Catch Bit Show, and I'll probably be referencing that a lot because there's an episode 45 which they've got Stephen. They're interviewing Stephen. It's titled Sheffield's Best. The podcast is done by Mike Moran, who's an American custom knife maker, and then also Neil Punchard, who's a sort of expert in the field. He's an author, and they're interviewing Stephen, and it's fantastic. And he talks about buffalo horn. So, and he talks about going on around to antique markets and things like that, picking up bits of buffalo horn that he likes, the feather in or something like that. But buffalo horn to work with, you sort of have to soak it to flatten it out, and there's a whole process. Apparently it stinks to work with. It eats. So when you're like hafting it, it needs a different technique to work with because it's not as hard as, say, some of like bone or something like that. I think if you put it on I think Mike Moran talks about it when he first tried to work with buffalo horn, it just disappeared on him. So, all these different cover materials need different skills and knowledge to work with. But this is a fantastic piece. It's got some lovely bits of feathering in it, and it's hafted beautifully. And one thing I picked up, and I can't unsee it now, and I'll probably make a bit of a separate video on it, but instead of, so back in the day, I think it was Tony Bose that said it, no knife should have a corner or a sharp edge. And these days, a lot of knives have 90-degree edges to them. But a lot of the old school Cutlers and this knife that I had from Italy really sort of shined the light on it, around off all the edges, which that he's done beautifully with this buffalo horn. So it's all rounded over, so really beautiful in the hand, which is a skill in itself. But yeah, it's a fantastic knife. He's done a fantastic job. And then it's got this inlaid shield. So again, Stephen Cocker's got a brilliant video on YouTube of an old stamping machine that stamps out his shields. It's a fantastic video that he's brought back to life and brilliant to watch in motion, definitely. So he does all the jigging by hand. There's his jigging there. I've still got some buffing compound in there, I think. But look at this side. Absolutely fantastic. And look at the dye job that he's done on there. And again, absolutely beautifully put in there. So with jigged bone, it's hard to really haft these pins. He's done a very good job. He really has. These two are slightly proud, as you can see there, just slightly. But still done a fantastic job because obviously it's in grooves, isn't it? So you don't want to ruin your jigging of your covers, but absolutely beautiful. There is a slight bit of rubbing on some of the blades, only the slightest amount. I know the fit and finish police will go mental about that, but these are the kind of knives that you leave your kids. These are the sort of knives you get out with such pride, got such fantastic story, made to such a high standard. These are just fantastic knives. These are keepers. Right, so we've had a bit of a walk around. We're going to open up the blades and we'll have a look at them because I want to highlight something. So this is the first reference, and this is from the book by Adrian A. Harris. And if we use this description here, so this is parts of a blade. So terminology might be different around the world, but we'll use Adrian's here. So you've got the run-up, back square, round end, and front edge. So that all has a relationship with the back spring and the kick, and how it fits and sits within the blade well and within the frame. So why I wanted to hold on to both of these knives is I think Stephen makes his own knives for his customs. And as you can see, they're completely different. If I try and do this one-handed, hold on, let me put this book down. So they're completely different blades. Okay, they're both Warncliffes, but if you have a look at the bottom end here, where it sort of goes into the blade well and the frame itself, they're completely different sizes. The depth of them are completely different, but he's made them fit within this frame exactly the same, and sort of have a relationship with the other blade in there. And again, he's crinked this so brilliantly. We should have had a look at that while the blades were closed, and then the blade well. But that crinking is a dying art. There's fewer and fewer companies that are crinking. When I do Ian Rankin's Bokeh collection, I actually contacted Bokeh because I believe they're no longer doing that process of crinking. So they didn't really give me a definitive answer, but I'll talk about that on Ian Rankin's last video. But yeah, it's unusual. I think it highlights the skill of a cutler, that they're both completely different. Like I say, I think he makes his own blades up, so they're going to be slightly different, but he must have had some of these blades, but he's made them fit in there just exactly the same. It's unreal, and that's the difference. That is what a trained apprentice trained cutler is. In our trade, I'm an engineer, we call it like an engineer's eye. It's a cutler's eye, so he must know what he needs to do to each part of those to make them fit and all the rest of it. That's the skill and the craft really of a Benchmade sort of pocket knife, and that's why I wanted to hold on to them, and other reasons. It's good to see them side by side. Right, so the second reference, I'm going to be using a Sheffield Heritage on here, so we're going to be having a look at the shield. So how Stephen puts his shield in, he uses a tool called a parser. So, and if you have a look here, this is a brilliant, so I'm always searching for it. I've got loads of books with like different cutlers actually using it in process, and I'll put a few over here. There's a brilliant video of Stan Shaw, I think he's using it as a drill, because you can use it as a parser, which inlays the shield. And if you have a look at this picture here, you have a bow, and then you have this parser. It's essentially got a bobbin on it, and it runs up and down on that, on the bowstring, and then you have a template made out of brass that you offer up to your cover, and it is done so fast. It's it's faster than anything automated, I can assure you. Obviously this is a bit of tools that you can't go out and buy a parser from a shop. This is been handed down again from cutler to cutler, I would imagine, but a lot of cutlers still use this in Sheffield. I know Stephen does. And they, like I say, they use it to inlay the shield. Sometimes they actually use it to make the holes. They can put a drill, they have a drill part of it. Sometimes I've seen Stan Shaw doing that. There's a brilliant video on YouTube of Stephen showing Grace Horn how to do it that I found. That was one of my regrets of Sharp Show last year. Grace Horn was actually there. She was showing some old vintage and antique scissors and going through a catalogue, and unfortunately I didn't get a chance to chat to her, but I had a quick look at the catalogues and the scissors that were on display. It was amazing. So that some of the work that had gone on to make them. But yeah, this parser it goes back to the Egyptians. It's such an old tool, but it's fantastic to watch people that have a bit of a belt that they put on that it sits into while they're working on it. It's just so unusual. I don't know if it's uniquely Sheffield. I would imagine it probably stemmed from Sheffield with the cutlers, but I know a lot of them still use it. I know Stephen does. But a fantastic bit of a kit, and there's loads of videos on YouTube. There's one of Stephen using it, like I say, one of Stan Shaw, the one of Grace Horn having a go, and it's a fantastic, unusual piece of kit, and it's in that. There's a bit of a detailed description of it in the Sheffield Heritage book, but yeah, just a fantastic bit of kit there. Right, so let's have a look at some more of his pictures that have sent me. So this is the one that I find the most fascinating. I really do. There's a part of me that I really want to find one of these. It's a Cutlers Stiddy, and these, I don't think they make them anymore. Not the type that the Sheffield use, and they're passed down from cutler to cutler. And I find that so fascinating. I should have asked Stephen how he got his and what Cutlers sort of pass them on to him, because I generally think that's the only way to get it. Now, I watched that fantastic video that on Paddy Potato Peelers of their visit to Arthur Wright's factory, workshop, should I say. I wouldn't call it factory, workshop, definitely. And there was 2 set up, I noticed. So they were probably Michael's and Ashley's. Obviously Beth's coming through the ranks now. It's just, when you look at them, you can see the history and how much they're used. And if we have a look at the one that Stephen's got now, I think Stephen's got a few. I'm sure I've heard on interviews before that, and I should have asked him how he got them and who they were from and things like that. But if they could talk, imagine the stories they would tell, the people that they, I like the idea of maybe Graham Clayton or, Trevor Ablett passing theirs down to the next generation. It's just a phenomenal piece. You can just look at how much they've been used. Some are slightly different. I know Grace Horn's got one, and when I've watched videos of Grace Horn's, I've noticed slight differences because she makes scissors and things like that. So just those alone just fascinate me. There's so much to talk about just on those. Obviously, I don't want this to be a massive video, but that's one thing that just, there's something about these Cutlers Stiddies. They're amazing. And they're very different. So if I show you one that was actually in that book, the Sheffield ones are quite different to that. And again, this is what I mean about that historic tools and keeping it alive and keeping it going, and completely different from maybe some from around the world or different eras and all sorts of things. So there's so much to talk about in the tooling itself. Snappy. This is a beautiful little pen blade. It's so uniquely shaped. It's kind of got, I just love it. I absolutely love it. Listen to the walk and talk on this. Lovely and snappy. Lovely butt up. It's beautiful. It's a bit dirty, mind. Excuse me, let me just give it a bit of a wipe down. But yeah, beautiful little blade. Really is fantastic. I've not done this actually. Let's have a look at those two. But look at that as well. Now, this is a dying art. Yes, really is. This is crinking. And again, there's a part of this in the Adrian Harrison book, I believe, or it could be in the Sheffield Heritage. Now, I'm mainly using the Sheffield Heritage book as a reference to how they put the shield in, but the crinking, let me see if I can find the part. So essentially what they do, they fit these blades in, but they hammer them, they bend them slightly so they can fit. But not a lot of companies are doing that anymore. And people seem to be really going away from it. And we need to, I mean, I love those kind of knives. I think it really does show a lot of skill. I think that's where swedging first came into it, to allow for that to, I think that's where swedging first originated from when they were crinking, to give them space to fit them all in, like a bit of a, but yeah, I love it, absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. He's done a fantastic job of fitting that into such a small tiny gap. I hate seeing that independent springs for independent blades. I'd rather have one spring on with 2 blades. That's the skill. That is a skill. And look, he's done a fantastic job there. What was I doing? I was showing, that was it. We were showing the blades side by side. Now these pretty much are the same blade. So yeah. But again, really snappy on the open and the close. Let me just show the walk and talk on this. Ready? So snappy. Sorry, just knocked the camera there. Yeah, and I love this pen. I think it's fantastic. But yeah, there is a slight bit of blade rub on one of them. Only the slightest, but it might be me playing around with them for as long as I have. But look at that. I mean, it's even different where, how far on this one here, how far he's got that pen. Sorry, he's got the Warncliffe up here on the pen. Just fantastic. It's done. So this seems to be very prevalent within Sheffield Cutlers as well, a side vice, and this is Stephen. So they tend to use these side vices, and if you look, if you go and watch the again that Catch Bit show where they've got Stephen on there, he talks in great detail about some of the equipment that he uses, and the side vice does come up as being something that they all tend to use. And then he's got this Victorian belt-driven glazing wheel and things like that. A traditional hand grinding. This is amazing. So look at this piece of equipment here. This is an engine turning machine, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So this is something that you find on many pen knives in Sheffield. They used to do it on pocket watches and things like that, but you know, we've all got a load of engine turn pen knives in the collection, I would assume. They're quite affordable, but it was just something they did, and a way of engraving or sort of decorating metalwork, but just fascinating that he's you know, there's a lot of probably engineering in the background that goes to maintain and look after these tools and equipment, and again, these guys are keeping it all preserved and you know, still using it. And in fact, he shared these that he'd made for George Ibbison examples here. Just a fantastic. I honestly, when he sent me these, I couldn't believe it. Now, I'm sure he's probably shared these on his social media, other platforms. Like I know he's on a few of the other. Now I'm only on YouTube, so I'm not on Facebook or anything like that. So unfortunately, because I'd have a field day, because I know there's some Sheffield Facebook groups. Also on IG, on Instagram and things like that. So, and I know Stephen's on Instagram. I know a lot of the Cutlers actually sell on Instagram and things like that. So I'm doing myself a disservice by not being on there, but I just haven't got the time. I've barely got enough time for YouTube, not alone any other social media sort of side of things. But and then he has sent me a few other pictures. And again, I could have done a whole video on that turning machine and show my pen knives, but I'm so short of time at the moment. But there was one photo that I'll save for another video that he sent me that deserves a video of itself. Right, so that's all from me. Hopefully, by the time this is viewed, one of these knives will be on the way to you then. Probably know me, it won't be. But I hope you enjoy this. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to build the channel back up again, get the views back up again, and start to make some content again. I really do enjoy it, so please like and subscribe and hit that notification for video releases, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.